Hi everyone, let's talk about something that is not necessarily addressed very often, but it's something that's super important. I want to talk about consent. So I want to talk about asking our dog whether or not they're okay with a certain situation, and also giving them some degree of choice and control over the situation. So there are some things that have to happen in dogs' everyday lives that unfortunately they're not really going to get much of a choice in. Veterinary care, grooming, things like this just need to happen for the physical health and well-being of our dogs. However, we can actually teach them to have a little bit more choice and a little bit more control through cooperative care techniques. So Deb Jones has a really great YouTube channel and a really great book about cooperative care. So cooperative care is anything that is considered basically body handling. So that can be paw handling for trimming their nails. It can be dogs opening their mouths so you can look at their teeth and brush their teeth, looking at dogs' eyes, looking at ears. So basically anything that a vet or a groomer would need to do. And once again, that's Deb Jones. I will put a link where you can find that information. So we just need to make sure that we are taking into consideration our dog's emotional state and how they might be feeling about the situation. So one really good example of this is, just because we have a social dog who typically enjoys meeting other dogs and people, it doesn't mean they are always going to enjoy meeting other dogs and people. So I get it. People mean well. I even want to say hello to other people's dogs all the time, but we forget to ask the dog if it's actually okay if we do say hello to them and we do interact with them. And so as humans, we use our hands a lot. Obviously you can see in this video, I'm using my hands to talk a lot. So we also like to touch things. We're very tactile. We like to touch things that are warm and soft. And dogs happen to be both of those. So it's completely natural for human beings to want to put our hands over every single dog that we come in contact with. And I have to remind myself of this sometimes too. Even when I start working with a new puppy, I'm like, oh my gosh, I want to get my hands on the puppy, I just want to squish the puppy. But sometimes you got to sit on your hands and you got to keep your damn hands to your damn self, okay? Because most dogs are actually not going to enjoy that experience. It could even be your own dog in your own house. Like sometimes they're gonna be like, hey, can you just not touch me right now? Do you guys know how sometimes you don't want to be touched? You don't want to hug from someone, even familiar, your spouse, a family member, a friend. You're just like, if you could not touch me, that would be fantastic. So it's actually quite rude of us to be putting our hands all over dogs all of the time and not asking them for their consent. So, if someone does want to pet your dog, maybe take a step back, look down at your dog. Are they demonstrating any sort of, uncomfortable body posture or body language or anything like that, indicating that they might not be super comfortable with the situation? And instead of forcing them to interact with the person, you can just tell them, oh, no, thank you, we're training right now, thanks for asking. So don't be afraid to tell people no, that they can't interact with your dog. No, they cannot freaking touch your puppy. Everyone does not need to touch your dog. Everyone does not need to touch your puppy. And just like you don't need to touch everyone's dog and you don't need to touch everyone's puppy. So just because a dog comes into our space and initiates a greeting or anything like that, that is not an invitation for touch. So let's make sure that we are taking the time to stop, ask our dogs, are you okay with this? Would you like for this to continue? But also, giving them some choice and some control over the situation by teaching them behaviors. So, we could do an entire video about how to teach your dog to be a little bit more comfortable with having their paws handled. So then when it does come time for them to have their nails trimmed, it's not as big of an issue because we've helped them learn that it's not something that humans are going to force them to do and not ask them if they're okay with it. So let's just take a step back. Let's ask our dogs what their thoughts and feelings are about a certain situation. And you might be surprised, sometimes dogs are like, heck yeah, I want to visit with that person. Heck yeah, I want to meet that dog. Heck yeah, I want to be in this new situation. But sometimes they're like, no, I don't want to. And they're looking to us to save them. They're looking to us to help them and protect them. And so it's not going to be very beneficial for your relationship if you are constantly putting your dog in situations that they don't necessarily want to be in, and if you're constantly putting your dog in situations that they're not prepared for. So, you know, one of those, for the example, going back to the nail trims, if you're not doing anything to help your dog get desensitized and get used to having their paws handled and get used to nail clippers, and you're just going to drop them off at the vet and be like, hey, trim my dog's nails, I guarantee you 100% your dog is not going to be okay with that. So, in conclusion, let's make sure that we are including our dogs in the everyday situations of things that are happening to them and around them.